Hey y'all, it's Mike Consumables Craftsman, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this tattered deer flag.
So to start this project off, I picked up a 1x12x8 pine board. I like using this size board because you can get an entire large flag out of one board. The first cut I make on the miter saw is at 37 inches, and this is going to be the length of the flag. This cut will give us the 6 stripes that are on the bottom of the flag. And yes, I know I have to invest in a sliding miter saw. The next cut I make off of the same board is 22¼ inches. This is going to be for the top 7 stripes. I then take both the boards that I just cut over to the table saw, set the gauge to 1.5 inches, and start ripping them down to size. We should end up with 7 strips at 1.5 inches wide by 22¼ inches long, and then 6 strips at 1.5 inches wide at 37 inches long. So the quickest and easiest way to measure out for the union, that I think anyway, is to get the leftover piece of 1x12x8 and clamp all the other boards together and then just mark where you need to cut off of the union section. And for a 19.5 inch by 37 inch flag, your union is generally going to be 14¾ inch long by 10.5 inches wide. And as you can see here, that's exactly what I got. So we'll bring the union section back over to the miter saw and we'll cut it down to size, and then we'll bring it over to the table saw and adjust our fence to line up with the mark that we made, cutting it to the proper width. And here's the mini version of the flag that we're making, and you can see the size difference from a mini flag to the large flag. Alright, so the next part of this process I learned from Max F. He's also on YouTube. He takes his angle grinder and then uses this graph wood cutting wheel on his angle grinder to make the marks and cuts into the individual stripes. So for this next part, just make sure that the stripes that you're working on are clamped down tightly. I do them individually so that I can make sure the details in each one. And all I do is go at about a 45-degree angle and work my way down the stripe, going in and out, making sure I get some really nice slices in there. I sometimes like to go super deep to really make it tattered, but it's all up to whatever design you'd like to do. And as always, make sure you're wearing your glasses. So for the union section, it's basically the same thing, except you're going around all 4 sides. And then I'll take the wheel and just tap the face of the union to give some detail. And it really comes out, as soon as you stain it blue, it comes out really cool. So once the stripes have the tattered look that you like, I go ahead and take the 220 grit sandpaper and hit all of the little details, the crevices, the nooks and crannies, and then the face and sides of the stripes in union. So I like to use 220 grit right off the bat when I'm sanding these because it doesn't take as much off of the wood as the 120 or an 80 grit would, so you're able to keep those stripes and that tatteredness that you just put in with the angle grinder. So for this next section, I'm using the Bernzomatic torch, and I'm just going to hit every single stripe and the union with it. The Bernzomatic, it works really well. I never had any issues with it, and it lasts a really long time. Maybe a little too long. I don't even remember the last time I changed the tank out, but I would highly recommend it. So as for the stain, I like to use the Minwax Barn Red for the red stripes, the Minwax Pure White, their tint base for the white stripes, and then the Minwax Navy for the union. And I know there's more colors available, blues, whites, and reds and stuff like that. So if you guys have any suggestions on what colors might be a little bit better or cooler, go ahead and leave them in the comments below so I can check them out. So just know the toughest part of the staining process was actually getting into all the little crevices and making sure that didn't gunk up in it. The Minwax, the tint base, actually does that a lot, so just kind of be mindful of it. The Barn Red, it went on perfectly smooth as usual. It's a great stain. So just be wary of the white and how thick it goes on. So almost all of the other unions I do are engraved using the CNC machine, but I wanted to make sure this union can get a weathered or tattered look, and the only way I could think of doing that and making the stars kind of uneven and mispainted and such was to do white spray paint. So I'm using the white Rust-Oleum Satin paint, and I'm just using a template that I got off Amazon. I'll link it in the description below, and it came out really nice, but it was too clean of stars. So what I went ahead and did was use 120 grit sandpaper and just went over it a little bit to roughen up everything and make it look not so perfect. So for the next step in the process, it's time for the glue up, and I'm using Titebond 2 wood glue, and I'm putting it on the bottom third of every stripe. That way when it clamps together, it doesn't squeeze out up over top of the stain. So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm using the flag jig that I did make a video of. It is up on the channel on how I made it. It's great for making super flat flags. You just throw a little saran wrap down the bottom and then use these bars across the top to help with the downward pressure on the flag, so when you put your clamps on, there's no bowing or anything like that. If you have a minute, go check out that video because it'll be super useful if you're always gluing up flags. Now it's time to put the clamps on. Right here I'm using Pony Jorgensen bar clamps. They're super quick, actually not that expensive, and they're super strong, so I highly recommend them. So the glue does need some time to set. I let this one set up overnight, which is actually how I do most of my flag glue ups. That way, you know, I can work while I sleep, and the next day I'm ready to rock bright and early. Alright, so I don't like to leave all the glue on the back. I know some people do. I like to make sure that the back is nice and clean for the customer. So I'll take 120 grit sandpaper and just rip through all the dried glue on the back. It's super simple, maybe takes 10 minutes.
Alright, y'all, so this right around this time is when we're going to be finishing up the flag. So far it came out great. The only thing we have left to do is really put the top coat on and the back braces. But right now it's looking pretty cool. Here's the mini version if you haven't seen it yet. This is kind of why I started making them. I made a mini version of it, and then somebody wanted to get a large one. So yeah, like I said, normally we would be finishing this up now. We'd be putting back braces on it, 4 of them. You'll see that here soon, and then do a top coat of polycrylic on it. However, the customer that ordered this flag specifically wanted a custom engraving. They want a deer skull in the stripe area, so it'll be going right about there. So we just got to get the CNC set up. I have the file already loaded on the computer. I'll show you that preview of that here in a second. So let's get ready to rock.
Daddy.
You want to do it too? Alright, so I got the flag attached to the CNC onto the wasteboard, and I use these clamps to help keep it in place. Now, with this style CNC, I could essentially make it portrait style, but I do landscape. That way I can see it actually come to life in the spot. I do leave enough room for the wheels to cut through, because if you don't, then it's just going to get jammed up. So we're getting ready to put the deer skull onto the stripe area here. That's going to be a rustic style, and this is the design that the customer wanted, which I've done before, and it actually comes out really cool, especially after you burn it. So to keep the flag looking tattered and rustic, I went with the Burns-O-Matic again and just gave a nice light burn to the deer skull that we just engraved. So now it's time to really finish the flag. We're going to go ahead and get 4 pieces at 18.5 inch long by 1.5 inch wide. These are going to be put on the back of the flag with Titebond wood glue and some brad nails to help keep the flag straight. And as for the brad nails, I like to use my 16 gauge with 1.25 inch nails. And if y'all haven't yet, these Ryobi brad nailers are awesome. The battery lasts forever and they actually have decent power. And for the last part of the process, I go ahead and finish it off with a Minwax Satin Polycrylic, and I apply it with my sprayer. Now, I like the polycrylic because I think it actually dries crystal clear compared to some of the other polyurethanes. It is water-based, but I tell you, it works really, really good. So if you haven't yet, give it a whirl. I know it is a little bit more expensive, but the finish is perfect. And here it is, the final product. So for the idea of this flag, it actually came from Max F. He's on YouTube. He's one of the first guys that I saw build a flag. Great guy, and really knows his stuff when it comes to making these really cool flags. He's the one that showed how to do the tattered look with the angle grinder that I show in the video. And then the customer wanted this awesome deer skull on it, which, you know, it really came out it really came out super clean, so I'm really excited about it. So, but hey, if you like this video, go and hit that like button, and if you want to see more like it in the future, hit subscribe.